So as I said, you are a completely unique being, a gift to the universe. No one else in the universe is you. But along the way, when you come out, you enter the world. And in the world, you're going to go through this entire story. Whether you're 16 or 60, you're going to go through these life events that are going to begin to make up your life story. And along that way, there's going to be these key unique markers that kind of lay out a timeline of who you are and how you engage the world. For example, as soon as you come out, you, from 0 to 5, are completely useless. Sorry, you just don't have much to offer. As human beings, we're born into the world pretty much completely, absolutely dependent on our families. So the predominant thing in your life from 0 to 5 that dominates your existence is your family. Now, I don't know what your family looks like. Maybe you have a single mom or a single dad. Maybe you're parents and you come from a huge family where everyone comes together. I know that there's cultures where multiple families could live in the same household. I don't know what your family exactly looks like, but I do know that you have a family. Even if you're adopted, you have a family. And from 0 to 5, you don't know any different because this family, they are your gods because you are completely dependent on their whim, their will, and their ability to take care of you. So even though you're born into a family, whatever that looks like, you know from 0 to 5 that you're completely dependent on them. And so you're physically dependent, whether you have a roof over your head, the bed you sleep in, the food you eat, the clothes you wear, whether you bathe every day or even wiping our own butts. It's all dependent on our family as we go from 0 to 5. We're completely dependent on our physical well-being, but also underneath that, we're also learning how to integrate into the world through our family. For example, like, do we celebrate birthdays? Do we celebrate holidays? Do we go to church? Do we have lots of friends? Do we only have a few friends? Do we have play dates? All of these things exist within our control in our realm of our families. There's not many or any families that are just going to let a 5-year-old go out on their own and get a job. It just doesn't work that way. We are not capable of that. So from 0 to 5, we are completely dependent on our family. But now something interesting happens at 5. So you got to ask yourself, what's the big change that occurs at 5? Well, the first thing is we're still completely dependent on family. And our families determine a ton from 5 to 12. They're going to determine where you go to school, who you hang out with, do you play sports or not. And so at 5, the big event that occurs is you do go to school. You go to kindergarten. Now, I know some people go to pre-K, 3 to 5, that's possible, but still, that's still heavily dosed under here. But at 5 years old, you go in and your family is still controlling much of this. Are you allowed to sleep over at your friends? Do you live in a suburb or do you live in a city? All of that's still determined by here. Do you go to private school, public school? Do your parents read to you at night? Do they care whether you do well in school or not? Like I said, are you highly involved in activities or are you a latchkey kid? All of that's determined by your family. But a new player enters the game. And so from 5 to 12, this new player, this is the social game. And what happens here, we get interacted with other beings like us, other 5-year-olds, other 6-year-olds. We engage in other kids and we start to learn that there's a world outside of the world of our family. For example, if you come from a broken family, a family of divorce, and you go to school and you realize that some families are still together, or vice versa. Your family's whole, you go over to your friend's house and they don't. I remember growing up, one of my friends was adopted. He didn't have the same skin color as his parents. For a kid in elementary school, that's a lot to process. Like, oh, I didn't know parents and kids could be different colors. And then I had to learn about adoption. So when you're going into this game, you start to learn that other people are playing by different rules. Some families eat together, some don't. Some are allowed to drink pop, some are not. And so we're in this world and we're starting to realize the rules are not the same for everyone. And these rules start to create a differentiation. For example, when we're in our classroom, some kids are quick readers. Some kids have to go to another room to read. We have situations where kids get picked first on the playground and other kids are completely cut out of sports. So this social game not only tells us about our family, what's normal or what's not normal, but it also starts to create this ranking. And even the adults, other parents and teachers begin to play a part in this as well. The school itself will start to be like, hey, you need additional help, or hey, you're an advanced kid, you get to go into this other classroom. And so we start to learn real quick that there's a pecking order. That it's not just us and our family and in this small community. There's this much broader community that we must partake in. And so a lot of kids 5 to 12, that's where a lot of their stories really come alive because this is where difficulties begin. that things are not the same out there as they are at home. I've worked with people who've grown up in extreme poverty, but it's until they get to school and they realize that other kids don't have to pick, weevils out of their flour, that they start to realize that this isn't normal for other kids. And that creates a lot of disruption in our identity. And so now you as an individual in elementary school are caught between the identity of your family and the identity of the world. Okay, big moment at 12. So we're going to look at 12 to 18 here, and we know that there's a big moment that occurs here. Ready? See if you remember middle school. Why do we separate middle school kids away from elementary schools? That's right. That's when they split the boys and the girls. They show you that weird video of a cartoon of a kid. He's in a shower. He looks down and he's like, whoa, there's pubic hair or whatever. There's this big moment of like sexuality. And what happens at 12, we start to realize like there are men and women or like oh, I'm different from this guy. He's growing up. He's 6 foot tall. I'm still 3'6". We start to see girls growing faster than boys. Different body parts start to grow. So we get really weirded out around 12. But what also happens at 12 as we start to grow in sexual maturity, as we hit puberty, is this game of family and social slowly starts to flip. And in 12 to here, there's this flip where our attention is more focused on what's occurring socially than what is occurring in our family. And our priorities begin to focus. In this age range, 12 to 18, middle school and high school, it doesn't mean our family's not important, but we're paying attention to what our friends are doing. What are they wearing? What are they talking about? Who are they listening to? What are they fans of? And our family is important. We still got to eat, sleep, and, get clothed there. But they're kind of like now annoying because we don't want to look at what they're doing because what they prioritize seems to this. So there's a lot of rebellion that occurs in this age. Look at the music, look at the movies. This is a lot of times where there's this disengagement from the family to try to engage into the social, because we're just trying to fit in. We're trying to be part of this world that's there. Over here, we need our family to be able to venture out. But over here, we're venturing out and we need to start breaking ties with our family. So a lot of fights and rebellions will occur here. It doesn't mean that kids don't love or respect their family, but they're really trying to see who are they out there. This is where bad behaviors will really start to pick up, things like drinking, sex, smoking. They're going to start testing the boundaries to see who are they and what does it look like to be an adult. Unfortunately, they're stupid. And so they have a lot of hard times figuring out what that looks like or knowing what those boundaries are or setting those, so they'll make a lot of mistakes, but they're just trying to figure it out. It's natural. And of course, at 18, especially in our culture, you're out. That's the transition. After graduation, you're looking for a place to belong and that the social game really takes off. As a parent and as a teacher, there's a fun fact that goes around. I've never confirmed this, but it feels true. That as a parent, we're going to spend more time with our kids from 0 to 18 than we will with them for the rest of their lives. And that's because once they hit 18, they're fully engaging in the social world. They're worrying about making enough money. They're worried about finding a partner. They're worried about finding a community of people where they belong. Where are they going to live? What are they going to do for the rest of their lives? And so we put college or we put training schools or whatever in there, or maybe they go to the military. But the point is this stretch right here, some people will come right out and they'll jump right into the adult game. They'll get married and get a career. But for the most part, this is a slow transition from about 18 to 26, where we're really trying to figure out, where do I fit in this world now? Who am I in that place? Now, our family is still behind us. We'll visit them on holidays and we'll call them for celebrations and we'll meet them when we can. But this becomes a far and distant thing because we're fully invested in what we're building out there and how do we fit in there. That's because things begin to flip at 26. Now, I get a lot of variety of answers on this. What happens at 26? And one of the common ones is they'll say in psychology that that's where the brain really stops fully forming, which kind of makes sense. But there's something else that our brain flips to at about 26. And it looks at the structure and it says at 26, what would it look like for me to have a family? And so our priorities flip again, and our social world falls behind on this. Now, we still have a social world, and it's usually tied closely to our family. I have friends here in my 50s that I've made when I was a teenager and at college that I'm still with, and that our families have now grown together because we've gone from being social friends to being family friends. So we'll call even our friends like uncle and auntie because they're part of our network. And so here we are in this world, and that leads us right to here. It doesn't matter what your age is. Maybe you're in this range watching this video, or maybe you're way over here like me. But the point is we're all following the same script. And we reach this age post 26, 26, 30, whatever it is, where we start thinking about the world. It doesn't mean we get married or start a family, but it does mean we start thinking about our own family. Or at least we begin to see our friends around us start making their own family. And that what is socially important becomes a little less significantly. I always thought it was crazy that in my 30s, like I just saw one of our neighbors the other day. They were celebrating their first kid's birthday, and they rolled up, they had all the music playing, and they had a keg, and they had barbecue, and I'm like, yeah, all things that a 1-year-old really loves for the first birthday party. But even the 1-year-old birthday party is an excuse for the social to tie into the family. And so this is our life, and it's what brings us to here. Now, how these things interact is going to be different for every one of us as we walk upon our life. Our family situation and our social situations can vary greatly. Some of us has very strong family situations and maybe even very socially strong things, but something seems to be amiss right here. There's something that when we get here, we start to question kind of what's going on here. We hit this place and be like, is this where I'm supposed to be? And so we have to look at this and understand, like, what are the dynamics that have led us to this very place? And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take you from here to where you want to go in the future. I'm going to take your story from how you got to here today watching this video to where you're going to go in your future and the expectations and the hopes that you set for yourself. And unfortunately, at the same time, I'm going to tell you that that's where you're going to miss the mark.